Welcome. I'm Reverend Sandrea Tolbert, the Executive Director here at Historic Scarrett Bennett, and we are in the historic Belle Bennett Memorial Social Rooms. And today we want to welcome each and every one of you to this installment of the Belle Bennett Speaker Series. We are thrilled to have with us today a distinguished alumna of the Scarrett Graduate School, Miss Jennie Smith. Jennie's journey in music and community service exemplifies the transformative impact of education and dedication to one's craft. We are so excited that Jennie has come our way, because Jennie's career began, her musical career began at the guidance of her father and quickly became a fixture in her community as a talented organist and pianist. And we get to hear her here at Scarrett in the historic Whiteman Chapel. Her accolades include being named Miss Russell County, watch out there, beauty, a finalist in the Miss Virginia pageant, and winning overall talent competition, showing her proficiency in piano and, is it harpsichord? Harpsichord. Wow, you got to tell me a little bit more about that. Jennie's academic pursuits led her to Emory Henry College and later to Scarrett Graduate School, where she earned her master's in sacred music. Her contributions to Scarrett Bennett Center as the chapel organist and director of programs, music, and arts have left a lasting legacy. Yes, she is a legacy builder here, enhancing the musical landscape of the institution. Beyond her professional career, Jennie has dedicated countless hours to volunteering, notably at the W.O. Smith Music School, and serving as on the Board of Trustees for Emory and Henry College, where she played a pivotal role in development of the Woodrow McLaughlin Center for the Arts. Wow. Her story is a testament, if you will, to the power of education and commitment to community, fitting tribute to the values championed by Belle Bennett. After a brief video intro for us to this series, please, we will welcome be in discussion with Jennie Smith, a distinguished alum of Scarrett Bennett Center, of Scarrett Bennett.
Today, we journey back in time to celebrate the remarkable history of the Scarrett Bennett Center and pay homage to the enduring legacy of Scarrett College, an institution whose story is woven into the very fabric of educational empowerment and cultural enrichment. The founding of Scarrett College is not just a chapter in a history book, it's a testament to the transformative power of education and a beacon of progressive thought in the field of Christian education and missionary training. In the late 19th century, amidst the societal reconstructions in the United States, the Methodist Episcopal Church South recognized an urgent need. It was a period marked by significant shifts, where a thirst for knowledge and cultural understanding was growing, particularly in the realms of religious education and social service. The vision was clear: establish an institution dedicated not only to the intellectual growth of young women but also to prepare them for missionary work and community leadership. This vision came to fruition in 1892 with the establishment of the Scarrett Bible and Training School in Kansas City, Missouri. Named in honor of Nathan Scarrett, a pioneer in the realm of community involvement and Christian commitment, the school was a progressive leap forward. It represented hope, opportunity, and responsibility, the chance for women to learn, grow, and lead in areas previously beyond their reach. But the story didn't stop there. With a continued expansive vision, the institution relocated to Nashville, Tennessee, in 1924, re-emerging as Scarrett College for Christian Workers. This move signified more than a change of address, it marked a profound deepening of its mission. The college bravely delved into social issues of the time, intertwining religious education with courses in race relations, economic justice, and international issues, promoting a holistic approach rarely seen during that era. This dedication to intercultural understanding and the promotion of peace and justice formed the bedrock of the college's ethos. Scarrett became a nexus where diverse voices, cultures, and religious traditions could converge in a shared pursuit of knowledge and service. Here, women were not just students, they were trailblazers, shaping their destinies, and in turn, impacting communities, societies, and nations. As we reflect on the founding of Scarrett College, we realize that it is more than a monument of the past, it's a continuing inspiration, reminding us that education, at its best, is a courageous and transformative force, one that not only enlightens minds but also empowers individuals to embark on a journey of meaningful change in the world. For many decades, Scarrett College was a hub of education and advocacy. However, as the years passed, the world changed, and the college saw a decline in enrollment, like many such specialized institutions in the late 20th century. The economic pressures and shifting landscape of higher education led to the college's eventual closure in 1988. It could have been the end of an era, but the legacy of Scarrett was too potent to disappear into the annals of history.
We knew that the college was shaky. We knew, and by then it was a graduate school. It had dropped its college status. And it was talking about future. And we knew it was talking with various seminaries about what future plans might be. And we were watching very closely about what was happening because we knew we had a claim on the property. That we is an editorial we, meaning women's division.
When I received the call from Dr. Welch saying that the board had made their decision to sell the campus and move to Duke, I knew we had a lot of work ahead of us.
The Women's Division exercised its legal right and gained ownership of the property on June 1, 1988. They began renovating and remodeling many of the buildings. Assets of the college were used to establish the Scarrett Foundation, which entered into relationship with the Women's Division to create what is now Scarrett Bennett Center. The Scarrett Bennett Center name honors the founders of the original Scarrett Bible and Training School, Dr. Nathan Scarrett and Belle Bennett. The new name recognized the leadership contribution of women and became a symbol of the new program as Scarrett entered its second century. The transformation from Scarrett College to the Scarrett Bennett Center marked a renaissance period for this historic institution. Rather than closing its doors, the center opened them even wider to a more inclusive and diverse audience. It transitioned gracefully into a nonprofit education and retreat center, committed to promoting social justice, equality, and empowerment of individuals from all walks of life. While it might be simpler to define Scarrett Bennett by what it is, perhaps the truest representation of its essence is found in what it does, in the lives it touches, and the changes it cultivates. Our commitment to social justice, a thread that runs intrinsically through every program we offer. Through events, workshops, and panels, the center engages both the mind and heart, challenging participants to confront systemic issues such as racism, sexism, and economic disparity. We don't just encourage passive observation, we foster active participation, dialogue, and, indeed, confrontation with difficult truths, providing the tools and knowledge necessary to effect change. Education, specifically with an emphasis on women's empowerment, represents another pillar in the foundation of the Scarrett Bennett Center. We hold steadfast in the belief that empowering women is not merely a matter of rights but a pivotal strategy in social and economic development. Through leadership programs, educational workshops, and supportive community development, the center provides a springboard for women's voices and leadership capacity. What sets the Scarrett Bennett Center apart is perhaps our community approach. It's not just an institution for individuals but a collaborative, communal effort. Volunteers, local leaders, and global thinkers alike converge in this nexus of thought and action, contributing to a vibrant community that believes in the transformative power of collective action. The Scarrett Bennett Center is more than its picturesque campus, it's a microcosm of the world we strive for. A world of equality, justice, and mutual respect. Every workshop, program, or retreat is a step towards that future, and everyone is invited to partake in this journey. Whether you're here to find your voice, strengthen it, or lend it to others who might not yet have found theirs, you're exactly where you need to be. We attempt great things for God, and we expect great things from God.
Again, welcome to this installment of the Belle Harris Bennett Speaker Series in celebration of our centennial. Today, we are talking with Scarrett alum Jennie Smith, who has been our resident chapel organist. And so, Jennie, I'm just excited to have you with us today to sit down and talk with you. And just want to have a couple of questions for you because I'm sure you've been around a minute. So, what led you to Scarrett? As a Scarrett alum, 1983, Masters in Sacred Music, tell us about your spiritual journey and what really kind of drew you to Scarrett.
Well, I grew up in the Methodist Church, and when I was in Lebanon, Virginia, in high school, my piano teacher left our town, and his wife had been the organist at our local Methodist church. So in a small town, it doesn't take much to be the most advanced music student. So my father called the church and said, Jennie Lou will come and play the organ. So I didn't have much choice. I think I was a freshman in high school. And so he took me to Bristol, Virginia, where Dr. Loomis at one of the colleges there agreed to teach me enough organ so that I could sit and know what things were. Great experience. So I became the organist at our church when I was, I think, a freshman in high school. And then I went to Emory and Henry, and I was going to major in math. I still love anything numbers and math. It's so related. But by my sophomore year, I knew that the draw to music was stronger than my draw to math. And so I majored in organ and became the chapel accompanist, chapel choir accompanist, and played a lot of services. And then I graduated, and then you marry and you have children, and your life becomes that. But I continued teaching piano and playing, and in 1979, I had the yearning to take organ lessons. And someone had just referred me to West Nashville Methodist Church to play the organ there, and I thought, you know, I need some more organ lessons. So I called Scarrett, that I knew had Christian education and some music, even though they didn't have a full music program. So I called over here and said, does anyone teach organ there? And it was Dr. Ralph Simpson, who was at Tennessee State and Fisk, I think. And I called him and said, would you be willing to teach me organ? I adored this man, and I think I studied with him a year. He introduced me to things that I didn't know and to composers I didn't know. And then for some reason, he didn't teach the next year, so I took for about 6 months with Peter Fife, who was the organist, choir director at Christ Episcopal Church downtown, now Christ Cathedral. And Peter was a delight, just a delight. But again, here was a man devoted to the church, and he instilled in me that knowledge that it's not about performance, it's about the church. So, a year later, I heard that Wilma Jensen from Indiana University was coming, and that was the year the graduate school started for Christian Ed and Sacred Music. I knew about her, and I thought, I wonder if I could get in her class. So I applied, and the rest is history. So I was so lucky to have Wilma as a teacher. And during that time, there were two other people that really influenced me so much who were on the faculty. One was James I. Warren, and all of my classmates and those after will remember James I. He taught church history and hymnology, and it was absolutely, I think, one of the best classes I've ever had, because he integrated it into the study of hymns, but also what was happening when those hymns were written. What were the societal influences? What were the musical influence? What were the writers' influence? The location where they were written, hence the name of hymns. You know, Truro or whatever, it could be a city or a name for someone. And so that just opened up this new awareness of the history of the church and how it influences people who come to learn higher meaning in the church.
So that just led me to another question, because I was going someplace else, but when you said hymns, how do you feel the importance of hymns are to the church today?
Well, of course, hymn singing is changing.
It has the landscape of church, the landscapes of church music, and how we worship has changed. But how do we feel about the hymns of old, the traditional hymns of the church? Do they still have a place in worship?
Yes, they do. Mainly because they had meaning when they were written. And they have meaning today. But the new type of worship has what I call the repetition of the same words
over and over again.
And I think hymns are very important in worship. Take that out, and you've taken out probably something more important than most sermons.
Because a lot of hymns are really not only based in context of when they were written, but also a lot of scripture and really putting it in context. And so therefore, it also helps with spiritual formation, if you will.
Correct.
While you're sitting in the pew, while you're singing. Not that I can sing. I try to sing. I even tried to play piano for a minute, but it didn't last for me. It didn't last for me. What would you say, reflecting on your years in Scarrett, as in school, and even after, could you talk a little bit more also about your early musical influences and your decision to really pursue sacred music? How, once you decided to pursue sacred music, how did that journey take you as you focused on your career?
From childhood through now? Well, of course, I grew up in a family. My father thought that church was one of these, what I call the 6 slices of the pie. Church was one of those slices, and you did not miss church. And when even before I became the organist at the church, he volunteered me for the Wednesday night services. And, people would call out a hymn. You didn't have time to practice the hymn. But my piano teacher, I really loved my piano teacher. And he said, if you're going to play hymns, we're going to start working on them, and your sight reading is going to improve tenfold. And I think that was one of the things that made me a good sight reader. It was being forced to play hymns. So I grew up in the church as a child, and then going to a Methodist school like Emory Henry College, that was the day where you were required to go to chapel or attendance. You had to have 2 points, a chapel service and a lecture. And then I became involved in the college choir and singing and touring and all that, and I saw the importance of music as it related to not only our church institution, but the places that we would visit to sing and all that.
You mentioned Wilma Jemison.
Wilma Jensen. Wilma Jensen is 95 years old, and she's proud of that. She's still here in town and still teaches and travels and does workshops. She's just amazing. She, by far, is probably one of the best teachers I ever had of anything. Not just the keyboard work, but when she taught organ history, she would come into our class with a tray cart from the dining hall filled with books and music. And she was such a good teacher. and she would assign us, you're going to take the organ music from Northern Italy, and
wow.
you're going to do this, and she would make us present, and then talk about the importance of organ music within the church and how it changed through the years, and the influence, of course, of the Reformation and Bach, who introduced the chorale tunes to the church. And later on, so she taught not just performance practice, but she taught why good organ music in the church is important. And I remember asking her one time, that there were students in my class who, came in already playing Bach fugues and Franck and all that. And we had organ class once a week. We had to play in front of each other. And some of us were never going to be concert organists. And I asked her one day, I said, well, Ma, I'm always going to be a part-time organist in a small church. I'm not going to have access to a 4 or 5 manual organ. Smaller churches have smaller organs. And so we're not going to be doing all this big literature. You're not going to be playing a big Franck piece or a Bach fugue for the postlude. And I thought her answer was so telling, that whatever you do, when you play, and whatever music you choose, you do it with perfection and with integrity. And that lasted with me forever. That the simplest of music can be played well and with integrity.
No matter whether you're paying for one or thousands.
Right.
It's all in how you execute, and that you are drawing folks in to a spiritual experience just by you playing.
Hopefully that happens.
You do. I mean, I've watched you. I've been in worship with you, shall I say. Been in worship with you as you play at Tuesdays in the chapel or any other services. And of course, you're sought out to play for these brides here at Scarrett. But it is the graceful element that you bring to playing and for people to experience. To experience the divine in the music.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah. Now I have to live up to that again.
Oh, no, you do. And I'm so excited you're going to be playing for Centennial Worship. I don't know what to do. So reflecting on your years here at Scarrett, because I just mentioned that you played as a chapel organist as well as have served in director of programs in music and arts. How do you believe the institution's ethos has permeated your professional endeavors and your extensive community service?
I have to bring a name forward, and that is Carlton Young.
Okay, yeah, most definitely in this space.
Sam, he traveled, he lived in Japan, he lived somewhere else, he lived in Atlanta, he lived in Texas and all that, but he settled in this community. And I took a class from him before I began the 81 to 83 journey. And Sam, his life was a gift to the world. So when I finished Scarrett as a student, Sam moved back to this community and came to Scarrett as sort of a director of music and arts, and he asked me to be his assistant. Well, what a joy working with him, and his absolute caring and his absolute devotion to the message of the church. Not only through his hymn writing and his beautiful music, but just the way he taught and interacted with people. He might have been one of the biggest influences in my life. So I got to work under Sam for several years. It was part-time because I was doing other things. And then I don't know whether Sam was called back somewhere else. I think he went to Japan at some point to edit their hymn book. And so I segued into that. and became the director of music and arts. And about that time, Scarrett was closing. And I think the first one who came was Barbara Campbell, who came as sort of the interim director while they were looking for a new director. And Barbara had that same gift of an interest in carrying forth the mission of Scarrett. Such a wonderful, I need to go see her. So Barbara, if you're listening, I'm going to come and see you.
I'm trying to get her, yes.
She was wonderful.
She was here last year.
Was she? So I missed her.
We dedicate the house on the corner after Barbara.
So she was one of those leaders who said, take it and run. You know, she wasn't one of those controllers who said, now this is what I want. And she said, take it and do. And about that time, Maxine Beach, who became the first director of the Scarrett Bennett Center, oh my gosh, she was fantastic. And she encouraged more things. So we started doing a lot of workshops here and, you know, bringing in people in the summer for workshops. And she said, you know, go to all the conferences, go to the Fellowship of the United Methodists in Worship and Arts. And so we would try to bring programs in that would attract people from all across the country. You know, 50 or 60 people would come for a week of learning something about church music. And that was just a wonderful continuation.
Of continuing the life. That's been the beauty, I believe, of how building upon the legacy of Belle Harris Bennett has been the transformation, if you will, of how when the school closed and reimagining and transforming and in such a way a center that carries on still the framework, the initial ideal, so that we could still have the impact in the church and in the community with women's empowerment, with transformative education, with having the spiritual formation and the racial justice, that we've been able to continue to do that with programs such as that, having retreats and workshops and conferences, to keep the dream alive, to keep the yes, Lord, I'll do it alive, that the yes has evolved. Every time I sit down and talk with an alum, I'm like, oh God, the yes kept evolving. The yes of Belle Bennett just kept evolving from, I've sat down with several alum and I've seen how the programs, the educational program here at Scarrett just continue to grow from, you know, solely women to Christian education, to rural work, to mission work, to what was it, church and society, and then even evolving into Christian education and sacred music at the end. And that impact of how Scarrett was the leader in sacred music well before a couple other institutions in the city. The Scarrett was the leader in sacred music, in the music industry, really shaping the music industry.
You know, I think it was a real loss when the school closed, because with Wilma's presence here, and she was bringing organ students in from all across the country. And during that time, from 81 to, school closed in 88?
88.
The community could call Scarrett and say, we need an organist. Ours has moved away to Michigan. We need an organist. And they could supply an organist from this class. Well, when the school closed, there were no more organists who'd say, yes, I'll come play for you this Sunday. You know, we all graduated and moved away. And I think it was a real loss for the community when they lost the training that was going on here. And I don't know of any, there might be a few students at Belmont and maybe David Lipscomb, but there's not an organ class that you would say, hey, let's call.
You're well trained, you're well equipped to go and handle. Because I think that was the same message when I sat down with, I want to say Barbara Barden, that churches from all over would come for students from Scarrett, for Christian education as well, for sacred music, for organ, for that this was really the training ground that prepared individuals to be able to serve in the church. Do we find that folks are well equipped to serve in the church now, do you believe?
You know, church itself has changed so much. I mean, we still have the traditional churches, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're well-trained musicians. The well-trained choral directors, which brings me to say, you have to call Angela Tips and get her to do one of these interviews. It'll be one of the most fun interviews you will do.
All right, they're giving our information. We will make it happen.
Yeah, Angela came. She came to Scared after I was here, but she was from Murfreesboro and took organ lessons from Wilma, and would come to our classes even though she was still in high school or college. She would come to the classes. Okay, I have to go back a little bit to talk about Angela because you really need to have her. So when I was director of programs in music and arts, one day I thought, you know, we used to have the most fabulous lessons and carol services during Christmas, put on by the school and all the choral people, and that had been missing for a long time. So I called Angela one day and said, come up and have lunch. I want you to start a choir here so that we can do lessons and carols again. Well, she took it and ran, and the Scarrett Bennett Singers were born. And it was here for several years, but one of the former directors wanted to go a different route. So Angela and the choir left and became the National Chamber Singers, which went on for the next 15 or 20 years. And I think they folded 2 years ago and became part of the Tennessee Chorale, something like that. But Angela was one of those just gifted organists and choir directors who I think had really made an impact when she was here as that. And it carried on that tradition of what a group outside the church can be, because they did choral music, and she carried on that tradition. I don't know where I was going with that, but you need to have her.
Okay. Oh, we will. That's it. Again, these have been so rich and fascinating to talk about the history of Scarrett, but also how the impact has been that Scarrett has had on the community, as well as just the community, local community, but globally. When you mentioned that Wilma would have you all study different hymns from around the world to play from organist compositions from around the world, that's really, you know, that's been a great Scarrett impact. Not just locally, but also globally. The singers and having that local chorale of singers, Scarrett singers singing, and having that type of piece. Now we do lessons and carols. We East End United Methodist Church does lessons and carols in December here. Well, at least have for the last, I guess, post-COVID. They've done lessons and carols here. We found some unique ways to try to continue that type of musical legacy with Dr. James Avington coming, who has scored several hymns and did a hymn sing with him, and some of the other chorales that are around. So we try to maintain the flame, if you will, of music by allowing and collaborating with different musical organizations for this to be a space. Right. We have the National Chamber Music being a part of calling Scarrett home residency. A couple other musical groups call Scarrett home as their place of musical residency. So it's been fun. I mean, I'm one of those that can't play a lick, can't sing a lick, but the knowing how music impacts the soul.
Well, speaking of soul, I've got to mention Joyce Soul.
Joyce.
Of course, she has a soul, S-O-U-L, but S-O-H-L. But when she retired, I guess, from the office in New York and came here, it was like Joyce was a breath of fresh air. And continuing on with groups and all that, she started Tuesdays in the Chapel. Which was just wonderful because people in the community could come over for a 30-minute service during the day and have lunch in the dining hall or whatever. And then she started the Sunday night jazz vespers. I was not part of that because I'm not a jazzist and don't play by ear, but she started that, and that brought another entity into that would have never come on this campus. But she brought that, and I give her great credit. There was nobody like Joyce, love her to death, and I want to see her again soon.
Joyce was here last year too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had the distinct pleasure because they were so instrumental in the life of Scarrett remaining. That one of the houses here is named the Campbell Soul House after Barbara and
I was
Joyce.
here for that dedication.
Because we definitely recognize the legacy that they have left here for us to continue to be on their shoulders, as you say. So what do you see as some of the most significant challenges that you faced in balancing demanding career and community service and family, and what accomplishments are you most proud of?
Well, that's a hard one, but it's easy because people say, what would you have done if you hadn't done what you do? And I said, I would have done the same thing. I think that the draw into the art of music was so strong, and then being led into the realm of church music. And I don't know, I think I just love what I've done, and I hope I take pride in my students and my playing, and that it has had some impact and some meaning.
It has. I can tell you, like I said, I love to sit and just hear you play. And you're sought out organist for that special day of a lot of couples. So
Now that's another subject. Today's weddings are another subject.
Oh, are they?
We might have to have another interview on
Oh
that
wow, they're different, huh? They're
different.
They're different. Yeah, they are. They are. I think weddings and church sometimes are different than traditionally in my mind.
I think the impact of the change in the church came to me one day when I used the word, as I was meeting with the bride to choose music and all that, and I used the word, the sacrament of marriage, and there was this blank look.
Oh God, yes.
And then in the next sentence, I was saying, now the liturgy that your minister will be doing is, and then another blank look, and I thought, does she know what liturgy means? Because so many young people are unchurched, or if they do go to a church, they're saxophones and drums on the stage.
It's different.
But time for their wedding, they want that visual
of the
look.
traditional.
And so they come to Scarrett and say, this is the place I want to be married. And then it's, part of meeting with young brides, I think, is education. You're taking them where they are, but also trying to educate them into, this is not a show.
Right.
This is not all about the camera angle. This is about the sacrament of marriage.
Right.
And you're entering into something that you need to be serious about and aware that you're taking vows. So
you should be proud of that. You should be proud of serving on the board at the college. You should be proud of being volunteering at W.O. Smith.
Now that's a real joy in my life. I love that.
That was going to be another question. What brings you joy?
I think my students, of course, my family. James and I have 10 grandchildren between us, and they're scattered all over the country. But that brings me great joy. My friends bring me great joy. But music always brings me joy. Yeah.
Favorite piece to play?
Ooh, it depends on the day. It depends on whether it's organ or piano. I was practicing this morning. I always try to practice an hour a day,
Oh,
something.
wow. That's great.
I belong to
Discipline.
well, it is discipline, and I belong to a couple of music clubs, and we play for each other about every 2 months. And you want to find something that challenges you and that you put meaning into, and so that brings me great joy.
So you were still keeping sharp and continuing to grow, and also allowing to learn, but also imparting wisdom and knowledge to everybody else too.
Oh, there's just so much in life to love and to learn, and I want to learn another this. I want to read another book. I want to travel to another city. I want to meet a new friend, and
So what would you say was, as we were doing this Belle Harris Bennett series, we have been kind of looking back and reflecting on Belle Harris Bennett's yes. And how yes shapes us, and really making a commitment and staying true to what God has called you to do, and through the joys and the challenges. What can you say to people, how they can discern God's call on their life to go in a particular area? Because you really, with playing piano and playing organist at such a young age, there definitely was a call at a very young age that your father shaped and molded and kind of pushed you on out there. What would you say how people can discern God's call on their lives and to answer that yes and to be pushed into that yes?
they have to let self go. My mother and father always, in different ways, would say, your life is one. You were given one life to live, and when you leave this life, you need to leave it a better place. And I think there are so many egos in the world, and those egos probably have something in them that would be beneficial to the world, but that self gets in the way. And until you open up to listening to whatever that still small voice is, you're never going to let go of self and receive what your gift to the world might be. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I mean, we can't be selfish in the call, shall I say, and really stepping out on with faith. With anything, even though you might feel a little fear, still stepping out there on faith and not being selfish about it. So no, it does make sense. It makes sense to me in doing that. And so with that also, what would you think that Belle would say, words of encouragement, do you think she might offer those who are discerning a call to God to go into either music or Christian ed or anything in this day and age, even as the church has changed, as how we view things have changed? What words of encouragement could you even give to push somebody on?
Well, not everyone is called to be in church work. You know, people are called to be teachers and firefighters and doctors and, you know, department store workers. People are called into different things. But again, I think you just encourage everyone to be kind, to leave the world a better place in whatever position you're in, whatever you do. I think the world has lost a sense of morality and behavioral ethics. And I think we're all just called to encourage each other in whatever place we are.
To be an encourager. You have definitely been an encourager for me. I want to say
Oh,
that. You have. Every time I have a conversation with you, every time after Tuesdays in the chapel or whenever, definitely been an encourager. And I thank you for that over these years, these
thank you.
short couple of years.
You've been here 2 years now.
Going on 3.
Well,
Wow.
thank you. You've made a lot of changes. It's good.
Well, whatever God has us to do, that's what we want to be found doing.
I think you can walk on this campus and see the difference. Polished floors and flowers in the pots, and that's your joy.
It is. It is. It is. It is. Seeing, following the yes, following the call, following, okay, God said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Okay.
But I think it is having a plan and having organization behind that plan. I mean, you can talk all day about works, but until you have a plan and practice those 4 measures, you're never going to learn the whole piece. And that was a lesson that Wilma taught us all. You know, you're not going to sit down and play the whole piece
in one
today. You got to start with this.
Just start. To just start. One of our, I'll ask this one before I get to my famous spot on campus. I'm going to ask you your favorite spot in a minute. But they wanted me to ask, as a leader in both the arts and educational communities, how have you navigated the evolving landscapes of these fields, especially considering technology and cultural shifts in recent years?
Well, in teaching piano, the only technological difference has been the keyboards have come on the scene. And, you know, not everyone can afford a piano in their home. And, you know, like at the W.O. Smith School, every child that comes there, whether they choose clarinet or to play the drums or whatever, the school gives them instruments. And if a child does not have a piano and chooses to study piano, we give them a full-size weighted keyboard.
Really?
So
that's great.
So in that life of technology, that's how we deal with that. I'm not sure what the question really is, but how do you deal with technological changes in church music? I think some of that reflects what belief technology is. You know, I think a lot of technology in the church has made people more shallow in their beliefs and in their actions and in their purpose in coming to church. Is that sort of
I believe so, because when we see, not because as you say, not everyone has this beautiful organ that we have here at the chapel. Most churches may not even have an organ anymore.
Correct.
I mean, people now have keyboards. They don't even have organs anymore. Majority of it's the keyboard that makes all of the sounds.
Right.
That whatever sound that you want, be it drum, be it cymbal, be it clarinet, that a keyboard can make those sounds. And I guess preparing students to be able to just hear or to tap in to hearing different sounds, the original sounds that are not manufactured.
Right. And it's not so much the sound is what's behind those sounds. You know, if I'm in an elevator and I hear elevator music, do I want to go to a church that has elevator music? What's that going to draw me to? You know, if I can go to a jazz nightclub on Saturday night and hear music that's purely enjoyment for jazz, but I go to a church that has that same music, what is that doing to draw me into a deeper belief system or a different moment of sacred
A draw, a connection, a spiritual connection.
So I think a lot of church music has just become that shallow, sort of satisfying sound. And there are no words behind it that make one think or reflect. And this, and most of the time, the sermon is as bad as the music. You know, so that's just my take on it. You know, everybody is drawn for different reasons. Some people go to church because it's a societal gathering, and they leave with new friends and new purpose of being there. But what is it doing to draw them into a deeper faith?
Yes.
It's not doing a whole lot.
That is, which leads me to probably our last question, because I'm probably running out of time. It's been a great time just having a conversation with you. One of my favorite spots on campus, aside from this beautiful room of the Belle Bennett Social Rooms, is the arches that sit on one side, attempt great things for God and expect great things from God. What would be your favorite spot on campus?
Well, besides the chapel, of course, the dining hall. Because when we were here, you know, lunchtime was almost so fun, and we started having the celebration of Christmas in the dining hall, and there was just so much joy and connection, and we could all meet together and talk. Gosh, the test this morning was awful. I'm not prepared for organ classes. So just the joy of the dining hall and bringing us all together. And of course, I love the chapel, and during services, I sit there, and I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but the chapel was built, what, in the 20s, whatever. And
It's one of the first buildings. The
so
chapel.
if you look at, if you're up where the organ is and you're looking back, you see the arches along the pews. Now, the table that was built for the chapel, the next time you're sitting there and looking at the table, they put the arches in the bottom of the table. And when organ builders came, I think it was installed in 71 or 2, the organ case reflects
the arches.
The arches. And I just love seeing how the architect saw that, or the table builders saw that, and the organ builders saw how the visual impact of all of that fits together. And that's just one of my favorite architectural things about this campus.
It's like, how many arches can you count? Because the arches are all over, and it is in every element. And so if you look closely, you can see some of the Stonehenge around. They have the arches. When you look, even in designing the Centennial logo, what we did was we took the window arches from the chapel and the Bell Tower, which also has arches, but not the same arch that's in the chapel. And being that we felt that both of those signified really scared. You know, the herring, the clarion call, you can hear the bells at 12 and probably about 5. You can hear the bells during those time frames with different hymns, programming for different hymns. But the arches seem to represent that entranceway and exit way of coming into a sacred space.
And of course, the symbolism of an arch is that it leads upward. And I'll bet you could count on one hand how many people have looked up at that tower
and seen the arches. Looking up. And that around the chapel are the I am sayings. I don't know if people have really paid attention to that. There are so many instances, and even in this room, of scripture.
Speaking of the Caroline, I played a big wedding this past Saturday night here. And just as the benediction, the couple had turned and the minister was pronouncing the benediction, he was coming toward the last sentence of the benediction, and the bell tower Caroline started ringing.
ringing.
And after the wedding, the mother came up to me and she said, "Did you arrange that?" And I went, "Yep."
Yeah, I did that. It's like those moments, you know. That, oh, well, they have a blessed marriage. At the precise time, they are going out, and I wonder what song was playing then. I have to check and see.
Well, it was a hymn, but it was just as he finished the benediction, it started. I thought, yes, it's great.
That's the magic of being here. That definitely is. But this has been such an enriching conversation, and I will definitely look into making sure that we have Angela. Is it Anita?
Angela Tips.
Angela
You will have
Tips.
more fun with her.
Angela Tips. I don't know.
She is now at Middle Tennessee State University.
Okay.
And has all the choirs there and just
Oh, we've got to bring one of those choirs
She's
here.
won a teaching award, and she's also the choir director and organist at St. Paul's Episcopal in Murfreesboro. But her full-time position is at
Okay.
MTSU.
Oh, will do.
Still a fine organist and the best choir director, and she was with the Scarrett Bennett Singers. So.
Okay. Oh, we'll do. I ran into one of your other choir friends,
Tell me.
Diana Poe.
Oh, is she coming on Tuesday?
I don't know. I believe so.
Hope
Oh,
so.
we'll see. We'll see. But yes, she's like, "Is Jenny still playing?" I was like, "Yes, Jenny's still playing." It's just like, "Oh, I've been friends with her for years." I said, "Great." But this has been great. And hopefully we have indeed all been enriched by this installment of the Belle Harris Bennett Speaker Series. Thank you, Jennie Smith, alum of class of 1983 in sacred music. We are so excited that in just probably about a month, that we will have a convergence of alumni here on campus to celebrate the centennial of Scarrett being here in Nashville, 100 years, moving from Kansas City, Missouri, right here in Nashville, Tennessee in 1924. So we will celebrate the week of October the 16th, 17th, and 18th. We invite you to be a part, but we're going to kick it off on October the 1st with Centennial Worship. It actually happens to be my birthday as well. Centennial on October the 1st. It is the first opening convocation that was happening here at Scarrett in 1924. We're so excited to be able to kick it off in worship on October the 1st. And then again, we will have an awesome week with the International Black Film Festival for the remainder of the week, and 2nd through the 6th. And then we will have like we said, the homecoming one. They're coming from all over. I keep seeing the reservations and people are registering and coming. Maxine Beach will be here. And there are a couple of others. And so I'm excited about seeing how people have been, Barbara has been posting pictures in the Scarrett private group, Scarrett alum group, and people are sitting in their pictures and saying that they're registering. And so we hope that you are going to be one of those. Scarrett family, friends, alum, worked here, staff member. We want you to come and help us celebrate the centennial. We will have a centennial community on October the 18th, a luncheon to celebrate the globalness of the impact of Scarrett, not only locally, but across the globe. We invite you to continue to help us continue this legacy building, to build a lasting legacy here together. What Belle Harris Bennett started years ago. We want you to be a part of that. Come be a part here at Scarrett Bennett. Find out more information at scarrettbennett.org. Thank you and have a blessed day.